It's 7 o'clock straight up, and I welcome you here tonight. We don't have the Boy Scouts, but we can do this ourselves. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So before we begin tonight, if we could have just a moment of silence for the Carter family, young Declan, who tragically passed in the past week or so. We've all been involved in Northville. We could just think about putting prayers over to the family here tonight, just for a moment. Thank you so much. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Again, we are meeting with policies and procedures from the governor's office and the Open Meetings Act. Everything that we're doing and saying tonight is recorded. If you wanted to hear this tomorrow or so, go online. If you come to the podium, you will sign in there. You are giving us the right to replicate your voice and your image, on our tape, on our video. So from that, we will open tonight with the call of order and now to the roll call. If you could do that, Clerk Smith, that'd be great.
Mayor Turnbull.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Roski Brown.
Yes.
Councilmember Carter is excused. Councilmember Janetti.
Here.
Councilmember Krenz.
Here. Great. We have a few things on the agenda. Some people have flights at 3 in the morning and other things, not that that matters. I think it should be pretty straightforward tonight. We never know. Maybe we'll get you out before the darkness is upon us, but I'm hoping you can see a little light. And by the way, the Tigers won in the 9th inning, 3-0 with a home run. So we were watching that game before this game began. They will be back in Detroit 1-1. So it'll be outstanding. So with that, I'm looking for approval of the agenda that you have in front of us. Do I have that motion on the floor?
I move to approve the agenda as submitted.
Great. Do we have support for that?
I'll support it.
Okay, so we have a motion properly supported. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we can do this. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Great. We have an agenda. So now we will go to number 4. If you haven't been here normally, I'm kind of your master of ceremonies where you come in, there's an agenda and what's on there. This is public comment time for anything that's not on our agenda. If anybody's here to talk about the consulting services for Ford Field, I will open it up then. If anybody's here to talk about the Katy Street sanitary connection, I will open that up. If anybody's here to talk about the City Hall parking lot next door, I will open it up then. If anybody's here to talk about the ethics and conflict of interest resolution, I will open it up. And the truck sale, that big old fire truck. So those are the things that are on the agenda. If you want to talk about any of those things, I will open it up. If it's anything else on your mind, this would be the time to come up to the podium. So, yep. Come right up, give us your full name and address, and that would be great. Then afterwards, just sign in back there too. It's all yours.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You bet.
Yeah, I already signed in.
Great.
Here.
Outstanding. You're ahead of it.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, my name is Stephen White and I live at Allen Terrace, 401 High Street, apartment 212. I've been living there since December 31st of 2020. And I recently received a waiver and release form from the management of Allen Terrace and was told that I needed to sign it. I've provided a copy of the letter for the city council members. I have an extra copy if anybody would like to see it. And you should have that in front of you, hopefully. The note that came with the release says in bold letters, everyone must sign. And I have a copy of that in my folder. The release also includes the following language, which is very broad and very vague. Quote, I release, waive, and discharge and agree not to sue the city of Northville. End of quote. This letter was posted on my door 2 times now in the past 3 weeks, each time with a written demand for my signature. I have questions about that language. It doesn't seem limited to the fitness center. My sister is a lawyer who represents cities and housing authorities throughout Michigan. I asked her about this and she called the Allen Terrace director, Jolynn, last week to try and sort it out. Excuse me. The director told her that anyone who doesn't sign the release will not have their lease renewed. I feel that the city has put all of us at Allen Terrace under duress to sign this document. If you want to have a release for those who sign up to use certain facilities, fine. But this is a release of any and all claims against the city for any reason. I spoke to George on Friday. He was kind enough to talk to me for a few minutes. He was in a meeting. Thank you for doing that, George. He was kind enough to meet with me. He said it was a mistake for the city to demand our signatures on this document, and the document is now being revised by the city attorney, from what George told me. Before I leave here tonight, I would like someone at the city to confirm that I will not have any problem renewing my lease as a result of my refusal to sign this release. This has been very upsetting and a terrible way for the city of Northville to treat some of its most vulnerable residents. I also think that the city council should instruct the Allen Terrace director in writing that no one should lose their housing in retaliation for refusing to sign this document. Thank you for your time.
You bet. Thank you, Stephen. And this is public comment, but no, somebody's going to get back with you because this is underway right now and I want to get up there too sometime. So I appreciate that. So I'm on the waiting list.
Good evening. I'm Carol Suchak. I live at 13094 Woodridge Circle in Plymouth Township. Back again this evening to give you an update on my campaign for Wayne County Commissioner. I have been endorsed by the Northville Dems and the Livonia Dems and the Plymouth Dems. And things are progressing, but obviously we have a big day coming up in about a month or so.
Yeah. 30 days.
Those of you that are newer here, I just want to let you know I do have over 20 years of leadership experience in local government, managing multi-million-dollar budgets and $10 million worth of building and construction projects. So I know exactly the pain you all are feeling, but also the glory of it when it's done for the community. I just encourage you to visit my website to learn more about me and stop by and say hello.
And what is that website? Why don't you tell us again?
CarolSuchak.com, CarolSuchok.
Great. So
Lots
everybody
of
online
vowels in
could
this
hear that.
Ukrainian name.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Anybody else for public comment that's not on the agenda tonight? Going once, going twice. I am closing off public comment for council chambers here tonight. Great. Thank you for that. Let's go to consideration of approving the consent agenda. In the consent agenda, it's all listed in the package that's there. We're not going to go through every one. If there's anything to be added or deleted, this would be the time. Is there any changes to the consent agenda tonight?
No, I would mention that I did call the deputy clerk this morning about just, I think it was a technical error on one word of who was paying money up front, and he was going to look into that. I'm assuming that if that is found out that it is an OHM, it's the actual contractor.
You got that,
That
Mr.
can be
Yes.
edited after, correct?
Yes, I believe it was OHM to, it's going to be Bittergy.
Yes,
Right.
so.
Excellent. It's
So-
for one of the items, yeah.
So
You have that on
but
the
that's
revisions.
just, it
Great.
was just a technical item, and so
Excellent.
if that's going to be changed, then there's no
Super.
second.
Anything else from other council members?
Thanks, Mike.
Now I'm looking for a motion to go forward with the consent agenda as is. Do we have that motion on the floor?
I move to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Support. So we have a motion properly supported. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I think we can do this. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Excellent.
There was a lot on the consent.
There was a lot on the consent. So no, it's there. It's all at one time. You'd have to go and read it. We're on kind of a mod squad area. You can go in and see everything online. It's there, and any letters that came in, it's there. So feel free to go through that.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to back up one moment, is that under public comment, we have an item A, written communication received. And I just want to mention, we did get one item. It was distributed to council in advance of the meeting. It's now included in the diligent packet online. And it was just one from Jeff Snyder.
Right.
So
And
that was just so it's all there. Thank you.
Jeff contacted us last time. It was in the package. We don't go through every letter. It was in the package. Everybody could read it. We got those before last package, but yes.
Yeah, so I was
great
just
comment.
mentioning the ones, then if somebody does submit, they know that
Excellent.
That's it.
So we're on number 6. We have no presentations tonight. Public hearings, we have no public hearings. Unfinished business, we finished all our business. So we're on to new business tonight. So the first one, 9A, is a consultant services for the Ford Field Playground. And I believe, Wendy, you are batting top hitter on that, baby. Let her go.
As long as I don't have to hit 3 home runs.
3 home runs in the night, you know.
Take a
That's good.
finish.
Just one.
Just one.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, council, for considering this item tonight. We are asking city council to approve a consultant services contract with Spalding DeDecker for implementation of the Ford Field Park Playground project. The work that's included in this proposal is assistance with preparation of marketing materials, which is basically our fundraising materials, public engagement, plan development and an estimate of probable cost, construction plan development, and bidding support. The proposal also included an item for construction administration. I'm requesting tonight that the funds be identified for that, but it not be included in the contract at this time. Because until we have a clearer scope of services on what that construction is going to look like, based on staff experience and expertise, we may not need a full level of construction administration. But out of deference to council's time, I didn't see a need to come back to you a second time for additional funds, if you're willing to identify those funds at this time. The Ford Field Park replacement project was identified as one of the top priorities by the Ford Field Task Force, and it is a priority in Northville's 5-year park and recreation plan. We have been working with Spalding DeDecker since actually January of 2023. I apologize, the memo says 2024. In January 2023, we actually began working with landscape architects and planners. They're a landscape architecture firm out of the Lansing area. And they assisted us with something that I've termed a shaped-based playground concept plan. And what that is that's a concept plan that just looks at, identifies the playground components by shape. But it gives you an idea of what might be included in the playground. Sometime between January of 2023 and June of this year, landscape architects joined with Spalding DeDecker, and they became part of the Spalding DeDecker team. So when we refer to SDA, we're referring to a relationship that was established some time ago under a different name. The Spalding DeDecker team has historically been an engineering and surveying firm out of Rochester Hills. They were founded in 1954, and this acquisition of landscape architects and planners expanded their service offerings to include landscape architecture services, which is a great addition for them. LAP's staff came over to Spalding DeDecker, and their staff has extensive experience in park planning and construction. They were the consultants on the Northville 5-year park and recreation plan and are also the consultant working on the Legacy Park Master Plan. Then they have also provided design and construction administrative services for the Bay Court Playground replacement, and then also Patriarch Park Playground replacement in East Lansing. I mentioned both of those projects because they're very, very similar to the project here in Northville. That is, it involved removal of a wooden play structure and replacing with a modern play structure and appropriate surface material. So they have experience in very similar projects. Tonight, we are recommending that a consultant services contract be awarded to Spalding DeDecker in the amount of $52,000 for implementing the Ford Field Playground Replacement Project, and approval of an additional amount not to exceed $30,000 for construction administration as needed. And I can answer any
Great.
questions council
First,
may have.
let me start by, this is next spring for what we're doing on Ford Field on the playground. We
Yes.
have some opportunities right now before this year's out. You're going to replace the stairs, I'm sure. You're going to have at Serenity Point with the Oakland County Drain County Authority, and Oakland County did that bid. That's going to be end of the year, the beginning of January. I think you said,
Yes.
right? And I know I'm still working with DTE to bury the lines or put them up. I want them buried, and so is the CEO, but I told him we're not paying any money. So that is your third project. We thought we would have that late fall. That probably will be early spring too, won't it? Where we have the Vista and the ADA entryway. So that is on the first, is that correct?
Yes, and then the playground is spring, summer as well. So a lot going
Lot
on
of
in
action
Ford
next year,
Ford
great.
Field. And then the restroom, we have submitted a grant application for that. We did receive our preliminary scores back and they were lower than I had hoped. But by adding some additional information, I believe we were able to increase those numbers and hopefully we'll be within the funding range. We'll know about that in November.
Great.
So there's just a lot planned for this park.
Yep. Keep us up to speed because we're all on different committees in the state that we need their money. Yes. sir.
Just a quick clarification for council. So in the memo, we said 20 and 30. We had two numbers, but 30 is the number we want for construction administration, correct? Up in the body, we meant.
Oh.
I think it's a typo. I think
It
it's just a
is too.
typo.
You
Just
know
make sure we
what?
got it.
Their
30.
Just want to make sure we
proposal
want-
is
we want 30.
right here.
30.
It's correct in the recommended motion.
Yeah, it's correct in the motion.
The motion is
Yes,
right.
it's
The verbiage.
30,000.
Okay.
Thank you. I apologize for
Thanks for
that.
the clarification. It's
Thank you.
Just want to
okay.
make sure we got the right number.
Let it
Thank
go.
you.
Let it go. Any comments for?
Yeah.
Mayor, a couple. So first, can you comment on how this work ties into what was going on with the task force with Marilyn
Right.
Price and others?
Hmm.
Just so everybody's clear on how that plays together, because I talk about public meetings in here, and I know we had one at the community center. First, can you comment on that?
Absolutely. That task force that has a number of local residents serving on it is actually providing input and guidance throughout this process. We will take the marketing materials to them for review and feedback and comment. We'll be providing them with a recommendation for kind of different funding levels for the fundraising plan. They have been involved in reviewing the information that was shared with the public. And then they will be heavily involved in reviewing information that we get back from the playground
good.
manufacturers. So they're providing that community input to staff as we move through this process.
Perfect. Yeah, that's a really good group. And then second, the pour in place, let's say, the total access surface. Engineering will make sure that we're designing our substrates below that correctly for drainage, because if anybody's been up at Mayberry, that pour in place surface lasted a couple of years and now it looks absolutely brutal.
Yes.
So is that part of the engineering services? They'll develop sections and substrates for drainage and everything. So that pour in place surface will last much, much longer. Is that?
Yes. There's recommended cross sections for the material beneath those poured in place surfacing.
Okay, those are all
And-
best practices based on drainage, because it can get a little wet over there with what we have. So if we make sure that we have that totally in place, so that surface can last as long as possible, that'd be
Absolutely.
outstanding. It sounds like you're on top of it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it. Thanks.
Absolutely.
And that's part of the program of drainage on Ford Field.
Right.
It's always been a great opportunity. And some of you are kind of new in here. We have 27 boards and committees in the administration. We're here to assist them on the work they do on a day-to-day basis. And this Ford Field group has done a great job. And we have a task force doing farmers market and the Riverwalk. You can see everything is coming to fruition from all the work, and Wendy is guiding them and what have you. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Wendy. Great work.
Other comments?
Wendy. Yeah, well, I just want to start with analysis, reinforce what you said at the Ford Field Task Force. This is a priority for our community.
Yes.
Ford Field Task Force, the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. In addition, strategic planning with our own, within the city of Northville identified, and was it in the top 5?
Yes.
For sure.
Yes.
Top two?
Yes.
Yeah, it was,
Mhm.
bathrooms were up there too.
Mhm. They're
But
coming.
anyway, so it's just, any way we've looked at it,
Mhm.
it comes to the top as something we need to take care of. So I appreciate your attending to this once again. The other is that so we had that, which was good. So they did the concept plan, how is this going to lay out? What might be the different elements of this be? And that also was very useful for the grant.
Mhm.
Useful for
Yes.
getting that in. So
Yes.
these are all building block documents. But then on June 27th, we had that public engagement session
Mhm.
that the community got to just give how does this feel, or what kind of general elements, and
Input.
what we never heard back And Bob Ford did that, who, by the way, I think he's really good. Bob Ford is the consultant.
Mhm.
I'm assuming that will be leading this as well.
Yes, yes.
Okay, formerly with LAP, but now
Mhm.
with DeDecker, so Spalding DeDecker. So are they gonna get back with us on what the, I'm just really curious.
Yes, we actually received a report back from them that summarized the survey results as well as the results from the meeting.
Okay,
And I'd be happy to forward that to you.
yeah, that would be good. I just
Good.
see, because again, a building block. And was that covered under the last contract or how did that? Did they
What
do
it
it for
was
free?
is, they didn't do it for free, unfortunately. But there was this bridge between when LAP was transitioning to Spalding DeDecker, and we needed that support for the community meeting. And so they did the work for us and just invoiced it.
Oh, okay,
Invoice
simple.
that.
'Cause I was gonna say, because
Yeah.
the first one was a very modest contract of 5,000 and that
Yes.
wasn't included in it. That was their
Mhm.
step 4 and we only went to step 3. Okay.
Right.
So that I'd really appreciate, I'm just really curious. It was really well-attended meeting and a lot of input and a lot of dots on photos and.
Yeah.
And that
That's
survey
good.
information, maybe we put it on the site sometimes. too.
Oh, sure.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, so next is related to the $30,000 for construction. And they're gonna, one of the things is they would be preparing construction documents, but we're talking about the 30,000 is construction administration.
Right.
So for construction document, and we had that suggested by a planning commission member recently, using a design and build concept where construction documents are part of the bidding process, that essentially, and what are your thoughts on that versus having construction documents done by a consultant and then that goes out? Is
Right.
pros and cons?
My personal thoughts on that is I prefer to have a consultant do construction documents because a design build company, basically the company is providing you the design for their product. And, you're relying then on their expertise. I think there's more protection for the city if you have sort of a third party preparing the design.
Thing, yeah.
That's my
Because
thought
sometimes,
process on
yeah,
it.
but the pros are you can get more creativity in the
Yes.
other. So
And
as
actually-
long as you set expectations of what you want.
Right. And this process as proposed by Spalding DeDecker is a little bit of a hybrid.
Okay.
Because Spalding DeDecker will do the site design, all the access pathways, they'll develop the construction specifications, determine that cross-section for the surfacing. But then we are going to have the playground companies will submit bids for this, and they will provide us with proposals on what that playground will look like.
So it could modify some
So
things.
it could
Yeah,
modify some
okay.
things. So it's a bit of a hybrid.
That's good.
And I had some hesitation with that, but Bob has sort of talked me
Yeah.
around to the
Maybe it's-
benefits of
maybe
trying
it's a way
that.
of
So,
Getting the best of both.
Yes,
And-
they offer
and that's what
modular
he-
solutions that they're good at. That's
Right. As
not
long as
every
there-
company has the same modular solution.
So what I'm hearing is there's flexibility.
there is
That's good.
flexibility, yes.
Because there could be cost savings from that as well. So as well as.
Yes, and one of the benefits is it's real challenging to find contractors now.
Mhm.
And so in doing this, the play equipment companies, they want to sell their product. And so they've expanded into doing this type of work and they have people lined up to,
Mhm.
do the grading and the concrete and whatnot. So there's some benefits to it.
So we don't know what the cost is going to be. We know it's going to be bigger than a bread box. We know it's
Yes.
going to extend, but I'm really hesitant about why we need to award that $30,000 as needed now, the not to exceed for construction administration, because that's usually as a percent of what the construction is going to be, and that's an unknown right now. So is there an advantage to not to exceed at 30 now?
Well,
I-
here's the
Because it's way
situation.
ahead.
Yeah, there is money in the budget for the consulting services, enough to cover that construction administration. So city council really technically doesn't have to approve it
Right.
because it's already been approved in the budget. So my thought was to make sure council was aware of the scope of the work, so that, we didn't have to come back and talk to council
Yeah,
again,
so
but technically we don't need to come back.
Okay, so
anyway.
it's a not to exceed.
Yeah.
And the other is the 52,000, which is the base contract we're
Mhm.
looking at now. Is that a not to exceed as well?
Yes,
Okay, so we can add that. So then my last, second last. So on the motion, it's in the amount not to because we have not to exceed for the 30,000 is in the recommended motion description. Should we put not to exceed 52,000 as part of the language related just before the 52,000?
I think that would be fine
In the
if
amount-
that was
in the
council's
amount.
comfort.
It would just be in the amount not to exceed.
I'm supportive.
And then, just as a suggestion, and then was there something, other wording you want to change in that recommended motion?
I don't
Or
think
is it
so.
okay the way it is?
I think it's good the
Okay.
way it is, unless
Uh,
there's something you would suggest.
No, I thought you mentioned something early on that you might have, but we're good. I'm good with the rest of it. The last is just sort of a, is that I believe measure twice, cut once, right? And we want this playground to last a long time. Be the best, investment, for what our limited investment has. And so the community buy-in is going to be so important, fundraising. If it doesn't get done in spring or summer 25, I'm okay with that. We should not be driven by a deadline of an artificial time frame versus, because I back up from even say, June, like say that's sort of like that's late spring. If I back up and everything that this group needs to do, in this contract, and then I go to, you've got a bidding process, you've got to review those bids. There's conversation with the people submitting bids to maybe get adjustments. And that it just, the timeline doesn't work for me. So I'm just really concerned about trying to push this. It's, let's get all of our ducks lined up and do it really well versus worrying that it must be done in spring or summer. And we have a lot, and you've got a lot on your plate. There's a lot of construction in Ford Field next summer. I think next spring, isn't it? For the gateway.
Fall, spring.
Yeah. So anyway,
on the
that's
rest
just
of our
my,
life.
I don't want you to hold yourself to something that doesn't make sense for getting the best possible outcome and product. So, but thank you for your work on this.
Absolutely.
And again, from my standpoint, we have 27 boards and committees coming to us and all the work, and you are managing all those at times, and the 5 task forces. We thank you for all the work there. We're here for your direction at time and go full speed ahead. So thank you for that. Not trying to change your direction. Of course, by fall of 26, everything will be done in I suppose. So no big timing. You'll have more things behind, you're moving it down the road. So I'm a little bit different than Mayor Pro Tem Barbara Rusk-Brown. Of course, I want you to get rolling on all these things that should be done. Good. Any other comments from council members? Anything from anybody in council chambers on this? Going once, going twice? Okay, I'm closing off that. Do we have a motion out there? Could you say the motion that you believe that will be forward? Do you have it in front of you?
Edit.
Go right ahead.
Is that, so I'm just putting in that one edit?
Yep.
Want me to
Go right ahead. If you have that in front of you, that'd be great.
recommend awarding a consultant services contract to Spalding DeDecker of Rochester Hills in an amount not to exceed $52,000 for implementing the Ford Field Playground Replacement Project, and furthermore approve an additional amount not to exceed $30,000 for construction administration as needed.
Good. So we have a motion. Do we have support for that motion?
I'll support.
Okay, we have a motion properly supported. Any other discussion?
Nope.
Seeing none, why don't we do a roll call vote? I think it'll be unanimous, but just do it, please.
Janetti,
Yes.
Krenz,
Yes.
Morosky Brown,
Yes.
Turnbull.
Yes, good. Motion passes. Keep going on that Ford Field. Sleep's overrated, you know that. Okay, so we're on section 9B, and I believe, Mike, you're up. Katy Street Sanitary Connection. Tell us the Reader's Digest for us and those that are in line. Thank you.
Yes, Mayor and Council. In front of you is a award contract recommendation for the East Katy Sanitary Sewer Connection. We discussed this back in April, where a section of pipe over there on East Katy near the Foundry Flask is failing, and it's not feasible for us to replace it or fix it. It is to completely reconstruct and tie into the county sewer.
Mm-hmm.
With this, it will eliminate a public crossing in the river that's there. If you drive over there, take a look over the bridge, you'll see that pipe sticking about 2 feet above that water.
Yeah,
Right.
that's gone.
They'll be gone.
It will be.
Nice. So we went out to bid for this at the end of mid-September. We had 7 proposals. Departmental contractors from Shelby Township was the low bidder. They're new to Northville. They haven't done any work in Northville, but I've worked with them before in the past, and so is OHM on several projects similar to this type of work. So the last puzzle piece for this is awarding a contract to them. We've got all our permits from Eagle and from both counties, Oakland and Wayne,
Excellent.
in hand, ready to go. So with that, happy to answer any questions, but there's a recommended motion in your packet.
As you know, I've kind of sketched out every pipe I've gone in my waders down the Johnson Creek and down the Rouge. That is one that's just dying to be taken out. So
Oh,
thank you
yes.
so much for doing that in the whole bit. We have
Yeah,
other
we'll-
opportunities, but this is a big.
We'll have two over
opportunity.
there
Great.
currently that are in the river that will be eliminated within the next year.
Great. I thank you for all you're doing, day by day. And you don't sleep very much either. Appreciate that.
Yeah, we
Any
can,
comments
yeah,
from?
and we can check that out.
council?
River Rock Task Force has lots of pictures of that.
They do.
Their and it's in their implementation plan. So thank you. We can check
Yes.
those off. One for now and one coming, right?
Right.
So we need to look at that far wall next on the river, right on the other side of that, but that's great. It was hard for me to read the maps. Thank you for putting, you had,
Yes.
you had great detail in this, by the way,
Yeah.
and I appreciate.
Well,
Even
these
when
are
I
current.
blow them
Mine
up.
was blank, so.
Well, so I see the lines and there was the two.
Yeah.
And then, so is it, everything's following essentially the same line it did before, or is there significant movement? Because it looked.
Yes, so right now, the way to look at it, the different districts in the city of where our sewer goes to.
Mhm.
Right now, pretty much, everything, north of town, like, Cabbage Town, north of 8 Mile, all that flows into that sewer right there, through the river, down to Beale Street, to River, and into Wayne County. That's a lot of sewage going through that pipe. That's going to be eliminated. It's going to stop right there at near the Foundry Flask site
Mhm.
and go right into an Oakland County sewer, which is considered, it's a Novi trunk line.
Okay.
It's kind of ironic. It's an Oakland County sewer line in
Yes.
Wayne County,
Yes.
but
Yes.
that's. we're in
And
two
that's what we
counties.
discussed back in
Yep,
April. is
Got you.
We're going to turn that into a Chapter 21 drain where it's going to be a shared responsibility.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yes.
But, yes, so if you look at the map, it's hard to read, but right in that section, when you get to Griswold and Main over to by the, the car wash there,
Yeah,
our sewers kind of go right next side by side. And
Okay.
then, the county sewer doesn't cross the river until you get closer to the DT, DT facility over there by Beale and Griswold.
Mhm.
However, their sewer is like 24 feet deep. So it goes under the river
Right.
as it's clearance. Our sewer, instead of following that northern side of the river, it crosses right there at the.
Which is,
Yes.
yeah, which is always scary when I see that
Yes.
pipe. Yes, okay. So, when I look at that, it looks like it's gonna be, I mean, we have an approved plan for Foundry Flask.
Yes.
The building, we don't know what they're going to do, but, and it's under before and it's under it now, is that, okay, and that is because it's so deep, it does not affect the building on top.
Well, the building won't be on top of it, but even the proposed development before and any new ones, I've discussed it with the developer and
Okay,
it's the county sewer there has the easement,
okay.
which they have to stay away from.
Correct. And they
Okay,
know
so
that,
the
but
building,
both
so even though it's
present,
crossing their property, it's not conflicting with
No.
the way the buildings are situated on the property?
You need access to that northeast line on the.
Correct.
property.
Yeah, so
Okay,
the last site plan that was approved by planning commission did not interfere with our sewer, county sewer, or our water main that's there.
oh,
which-
good. And
it's hard to
it was just, like, the maps were great. It was just, they were
Yeah.
so teeny that I could follow it broadly, but those were the two areas. So, thank you very much.
Yep.
Anybody else from council?
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. Anybody here for the Katy Street sanitary connection? Going once, going twice? I know you're dying to talk about that. Okay, so you have a motion in your package. I'm looking forward to that motion on the table for the sanitary.
I'll give it a go, Mayor.
Okay.
I recommend that city council award a contract to Deponio contractors in the amount of $277,495. That includes a 15% contingency for the East Katy Street sanitary connection. And it is further recommended that the DPW director be authorized to sign the contract on behalf of the city.
Great. So we have a motion, looking for support of that motion on the table. Do we
I'll
have a-
support it.
We have support. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I think we can do this. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Great.
Awesome.
Full speed ahead. Get that crap out of there. Good. That's good.
Nice.
So next, stay right there. You're there. C, consideration of change order for the 2024 parking lot improvement.
Yep.
City Hall Park, we've been working on this for years.
Yes.
For God's sakes. Tell us about this. Do the Reader's Digest version. Let's approve this.
Yep,
Let's go.
in front of you is
Got a lot
the
of partners.
change order request with our current contractor, Nagel. They're going to honor their unit prices
They are.
to reconstruct the parking lot next to City Hall here, which has been failing for over the past several years. Both myself, our engineers, OHM, have looked at proposals. We met with our consultant and came up with the best plan, which they've approved. This being a shared parking lot, so Nago Paving quoted the amount of work to cost about $101,000. It is a shared parking lot, so we are going to be splitting the cost. We'll upfront the costs up front, and then we'll get reimbursed by the other shared parties, which include Northville Schools, Parks and Rec, and the library.
That's great.
So,
And there's a agreement that works out those proportions.
There is an agreement out there, and
Yes.
this has been worked out for years, and the library wouldn't do it without the schools. And thank you for all your work with the schools, and thank you for your work
It
with the
was not
library and
easy.
everybody else. This has been percolating for quite some time, and the township is basically part of this by Parks and Rec, you know,
Yeah.
as their 85
What's the,
percentage
what,
points
we
of
pay
that.
half, and what's the general split on the other?
Yep.
Quarter, basically a third between every other partner.
Yes.
So
Of the 50%.
of the 50%.
Okay.
And we are comfortable with that.
Mhm.
this, like Mayor has mentioned, we've been working on this for several years.
I
The price
recall.
keeps going up just because of the condition of the parking lot. So
The liability
George,
in
for helping
town,
out.
it's trip and falls, and
Oh,
the
it's
curbs are falling
horrible.
apart over there.
Yes.
We needed to do it, and it's great that we have partners to
Yeah.
do it. So
Mike-
thank you for doing that.
Because of the urgency, Mike and I had discussed potentially doing it ourselves, but then we were able to, the urgency, we were able to get our partners to come on board and
Great.
help us with it. So it actually is a very good
Thanks for
resolution.
the strong arms. We
We're happy to
appreciate it.
move it. No, they're great partners to come along and help us with
It
it.
certainly is
Excellent.
a mess.
And the final last note on that is I've talked with our contractor. They should be wrapping up Orchard this week. If approved tonight, they can swing right over here and get going.
Great. That'd be outstanding.
Mike, one clarifying comment just for the record is, so us approving tonight triggers the other three parties to kick in as well.
Yes.
They're ready to go.
They're ready to go.
Yes.
Yes. And
Yeah,
Yes.
they have we have an agreement.
We will pay it up front, and then they
They'll be
get
reimbursed.
the
Yeah, I
other
just wanted
half.
to get that out so everybody was.
Right, absolutely. We want to, while they're hot to do it. Excellent. Is there any comments from those in the audience on the parking lot here tonight? Come right up. That's.
Nora Lodesky, 119 Randolph. So it sounds like just the parking lot. Does that include any of the sidewalks? I know you guys can't answer questions, not supposed to answer questions, but that's the question that I have. Because the sidewalks around here are to the, just right to the west, sorry, direction, are pretty crumbly. So,
Great opportunity.
all right, thank you.
Great. We will get back with you, and it's a parking lot to my knowledge, but we do have opportunities in the future for all
I'm
those.
just gonna add that it is,
Okay.
it's part of the parking lot. That's
Yeah,
it.
it's,
There
So,
we go.
Around the
So, yeah.
sidewalks around it.
it's
Yes.
part, so this would be
There's
the
one on both
time. We are going to
sides,
try
right?
to do that for you.
Yep.
Lenore.
Lenore,
Absolutely. We will try to get those in for you.
They're not
You don't
gonna
have
put
to
a
wait till
curb
tomorrow.
on that south side, are they
Great.
though? I think
Good.
there was problems with people driving their vehicles over there.
on the south side over there,
Yeah,
no,
they're leaving it as.
they're gonna leave it
is.
as is, yes.
Because they need
There's curb,
access.
there's curb.
I keep picking up that sign
Yeah,
because I
there's
think
a
people are
curbless curb on
driving
that.
up over it.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
Any other
My-
comments on this out in the audience? Going once, going twice? Great. So I'm looking for motions, sample motions in your package. Do I have that motion for a new parking lot out there?
Hey, Mayor, I'm on a hot streak here, so.
Yes, you are.
I move that the city council approve the contract change order to Nagel Paving Company in the amount of $121,000. That includes a 20% contingency for the 2024 parking lot improvements. And I further move that the DPW director be authorized to sign this contract on behalf of the city.
Great.
Support.
We have a motion properly supported. Any other discussion?
Sure.
Seeing none, I think we can do this. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Great. You have a motion. Go
Thank you
pave
very
that, baby. Thank you. Next will be number D, if you're following on your scorecard, ethics and conflict of interest resolution. We've always had ethics and conflict resolution going on out there. We are looking to modify. You can tell us all the work you're doing and we might have more work in the future, but it's all yours, Sandy. Nice and loud for those at home.
All right, thank you. As you stated, we do currently have a current policy in place for standards of conduct and ethics. It was adopted by City Council back in 1989. Most of the content, or actually all of the content, still apply and are relevant. We're looking to make some minor modifications to it, such as adding a de minimis value on items, a conflict of interest clarification, and a requirement of an annual disclosure statement submitted by council, board and commission members and department heads annually. So there is a motion in your packet. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great. And in general, I find, I'm the chair of the Council of Western Wayne, we have modified slightly our ethics resolution. We've also in SEMCOG, I'm on the executive team. It's the time, words are changing back and forth. I fully support in the near future, even more detail. We'll have a subcommittee, of a few to go into more detail. I'm fully supportive of this as it is tonight so we don't slow down, but we will look at that. So, thank you for all your work. I know you've been working on that. George, you've been working on that and all the team, but it was right to keep modifying and we'll probably do a longer look at it in the near future. Yep.
And
that's all I have.
yeah, so, and the things I'm going to say, George is aware of, Sandy just became aware today. So I first heard about this 2 weeks ago. And by the way, this is a resolution. Resolutions are sort of there, right? Not widely distributed. We don't know they're there. And so I'm very grateful this was resurrected from 35 years ago. It's been in place, but it's not distributed, right? So we didn't know that this was in place. So thank you for bringing that up, and it's certainly time for an update. So I appreciate your efforts, but as you found out today, Sandy, from 2 weeks ago and then again last week, is that I know this was just to be, let's do this quick minor amendments, but there are things in here. Some of them are flowing from the prior one that already had some quirks in it that needed to be updated. And so I'm uncomfortable updating a flawed document or with the provisions that are the edits, the additions that were made. And thank you for the red line version today. With the provisions that are made, particularly the provision in 3C and how it relates to 3B. They're inconsistent with each other from an implementation standpoint. So I fully support a very quick turnaround and also having an ethics policy in this and not just because right now, which is how you inherited it, right? It simply has the standards of conduct are simply an enumeration of misconduct. So if you shall not, you shall not. But modern ethics and standards of conduct have here's what we're aspiring to. And so there's that, but there's some omissions, but it's the technical items in here that are inconsistent or problematic that I just can't support. But I offer again, as I did 2 weeks ago, to work on this. If council would like to have a subcommittee, we can turn something around fairly quickly, even as an ordinance. But as it stands now, there's just things from implementation. However, just to clarify, our 1989 one still stands.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So we're not taking away. So what I would suggest is in the short term, that this be widely distributed. That everybody on boards and commissions get a copy of this, right? And also of the 1989. Also, if somebody does believe that they could have a conflict of interest and they notify the city, there's remedies that are in place and the city attorney can assist with that and offer opinions. So, or the board and commission itself, which happens, I've seen it happen numerous times. People didn't know that this existed, but people have recused themselves, asked to be recused, and then they voted on it at individuals. So there's things already in place. People just aren't aware of this. So what I am recommending to council is we fast track this for amendments. I don't think it inhibits anything that would come before the city in terms of conflict of interest and be able to resolve them, even for our contract services. And we not quickly vote on something that needs some work.
Good point. We're going to go forward this tonight, or that's going to be out there to vote and let your vote go forward. I would like us to go in greater detail, and I'd like input from legal, from George. You've worked on it. That is my opinion, but I'm going to hear from you three and the others too, and we'll see if we go in that.
One thing I would mention as to Mayor Pro Tem's point is also if we get this passed, we are going to do a process where we would send the resolution, the disclosure form and a correspondence to all our board and commission members, the senior staff people. So in some way, this ordinance, I mean, this resolution change will have us communicating it on a regular basis, which will keep it in front of people's noses on a regular basis
All
every year.
27 boards.
And people will have that disclosure. So I think that this is a good process, though, you know, I certainly understand if council in the coming time wants to set staff to come up with a more robust ordinance in the future. Obviously, if that's the direction of council, we will work on that. I don't think that that stops this process because this has some certain things that I think are beneficial to it to have that in place now. But certainly if council gives us that direction, we'll work on a more robust process in the future.
Tony, from a legal standpoint, are you comfortable with the changes on this conflict of interest? And
Yeah, so generally I'm comfortable with moving forward with what we have in the packet, but I did see some changes recommended by the pro tem that I wasn't opposed to in any way. It's more so about the timing. And I think she has referenced an interest in moving forward with implementation via ordinance. And so
In the future, not on this.
so we could do this now and then work on the ordinance for future implementation is one possibility.
Mhm.
Is
Well,
at the discretion of council?
yeah, let
Thank
me,
you.
since you're in the hot seat now talking, so let's, because it sounds like even though I'm opposed to it, at least whatever passes, let's look at those remedies because it's not additions.
Right.
There are omissions, but there are technical limitations in the current document. Let's walk through those, okay? And see if we can do quick remedies. So one is that under definitions 1D, Roman numeral 1D, 2, it is owner of at least 10% of the company involved. Current practice recommended by the state of Michigan, Michigan Municipal League, and the Association of Michigan Municipal Attorneys is 5%. So that's just a technical, update from where they were in 1989. So that would be one. The other is that under standards, item 2B.
Is this on your comments, the red line comments that you did earlier
No,
today?
red line
Is this-
comment
okay,
were broader.
On the city one.
So
the city
they're,
one.
they're
Okay, I got it. Okay,
consistent, but
okay.
this is specifically to the one before us. So item 2, standards, and then B, shall not represent his or her personal opinion as that of an agency. I think it should read as that of the city. Right? Because we have an agency.
Mhm.
So then we know that. Also under, and this is where I need Tony's help, under standards, again, 2, going into D. And then it's about not soliciting or accepting a gift or loan. Do you see that D, Tony?
Yes.
And then it says services or other thing of value for the benefit of a person or organization. And then it says other than the city. See, it's comma. And I don't know what other than the city means. Maybe it should be there. I just don't
I think-
understand its context.
Yes, so this is vestigial, or this is from the prior
Right.
document.
Right, so this is
But
not
what I
an,
think it's saying is that while you can't solicit for gifts or loans for your own benefit, if it's for the city, which it would inure to the benefit of the city and it's within the scope of your duties,
Mhm.
that would be permissible because some roles include the obligation to seek out loans, for example, in Sandy's capacity. Or, if we did request a contribution, that would not be prohibited by the conflict of interest
so
policy.
what happens is this is such a complex sentence.
Yeah, it is a
That
very long
gets lost.
sentence.
It's very complex. So it's other than for the city? Should that be said other than the city? It's-
Other than for the city, maybe a
It's
good
for, at
clarifier.
least, I mean, it doesn't help with the length of the sentence. It probably should have been 2, but that was long ago and far away. But at least that, because when I read it on its surface, I didn't get that context. So that would be a simple edit. Then when we go to B and C was, I believe, so this is 3 procedures when a conflict may exist. A and B, there was no changes, correct? I don't think so.
One word, property. in a property.
No, you're looking at my suggested revision, which was much more wholesale.
Yeah.
So,
we're back to the
and I'm
original.
not, yeah.
That's on the back.
Yeah, I'm in the red line version. So the, so B, 2B was not changed at all. That is as it existed. And then 2C was added in whole, right? So for both B and C parallel B, it's whenever a city board or commission, I believe that should be city officials, which includes city council as well as boards and commissions. And that's in the definition of terms. We don't want that. We don't want those two provisions to apply only to boards and commissions. It should also include us on city council. And using the definition in terms, you can just simply change that to city officers, like it's used elsewhere. See how like in G above, it's a city officer. So I think then it includes all of us and boards and commissions, and right now it doesn't include.
I'm in agreement with that.
Okay, so both of those would just change the wording whenever a member of a city board or commission would be removed, and it would just be a city official. Oh, no, city officer is the term for those two. The other is, help me with this, Tony. I cannot see how B and C was added, B was a standalone, and then C was just an add-on. And when I look at how those two would be implemented, they're in conflict with one another. So there's direction in what happens in a conflict of interest with B. And it talks about the resolution, because the commission votes on it, right? Somebody thinks they have a conflict of interest, or they say they have it. The board or commission concurs with the member, or the board determines they don't have a conflict of interest, right? And we've seen that in action. That's how it's played out now. But then when we get down to C, it says when they disclose a financial or personal interest, which is the same as B, but it says it comes to the city attorney.
Yeah, and I think what 3C is really talking about, and what we might need to add is discloses an ongoing financial or personal interest, because that's where we were envisioning if somebody says in this capacity, it is an ongoing.
Correct. So A and B are like a one time.
Exactly.
Which
That's the
it's
intention.
not stated, but it's a one time.
Yeah.
So that explains, so what you just said is distinction with the difference that is not currently in this draft.
Yeah, I would add ongoing before.
Okay. So it
financial or
would be, so
personal
C
interest.
would be whenever a member of a city council, whenever, oh, you know what? I'm gonna go back to B. It's whenever a city officer. It isn't when a member of. Remember when I did the edit, Sandy? So for B and C, it would begin whenever a city officer discloses blah, blah, blah. And C would just have before discloses a financial or personal interest, it would be discloses and it turned to an ongoing, correct?
Correct, yep.
And then the rest can just read the same. And then that has to come to city council, the ongoing, right?
Correct.
Okay. So that makes, because without that word.
I can see then it looks like it's in contradiction to
It-
how you're
yeah.
handling it in B.
Yeah, because you had two pass. All right, so, as I said, this is another odd situation where I'm trying to improve this document, so it can be implemented and it's okay, but I still want a larger.
So Tony, let me ask you this. Directionally, do any of these minor changes change the direction of our ethics pack today? I'm looking, yes, we need to look at this in great detail. We have the strategic planning in January and maybe we'll do it before to have a subcommittee go through it in great detail. Did the changes that we just mentioned directionally change the ethics?
I don't have any concerns with the changes that she's referenced. And I do think that it clarifies, especially as it relates to 3B and C, the fact that it does apply to council as well as other boards and commissions.
May I suggest something?
You may.
Is that we now have a motion for adopting these with these revisions that are improvement. And can we have as part of that move further that city administration and a subcommittee of council work on a more thorough updated version of this.
I'd be supportive of that.
Yeah, I don't know how we want to word that, George.
I would just wonder about the time frame and say, can we, that this up until Sandy is fully engaged in preparing and finishing the audit and all of that. So I would not want to put extra work at this point, but certainly if we want to look as we start
No
the goal
timing.
objectives in
Well, if
January, I think that that's a good timing to start this process.
Well, I'd like to see it sooner than that. I'm happy to work with another fellow council member on a draft that we can work on, so.
I don't think we put a timing in there, but just say to look at it in greater
We're
detail.
happy to work on it as a part of our overall, I mean, we've got a lot.
Could be
to work
next
on,
month, it
but
could
we
be
can work on it.
December, it'll be November next month.
I just, well, so I'm a no, because I'm,
Okay, that's fine. Let your vote cast that.
okay.
Any other comments from council members?
Hey, Tony, so I'm very familiar with these in my work too. Usually they're kind of broken into two different sections, or I imagine put in two different areas here. So when I look through, let's say get to, let's say Roman numeral 5, procedure when a conflict may exist. So that's towards the end of that, and I'd be willing to welcome comment from everybody. I'm okay with the language. It's just that reads more when you have procedure that would go under ordinance and not in a resolution. I don't see why when we're passing this out with an expectation of behaviors that you would have the process for procedure of conflict would be in a resolution of expectation of behaviors. That doesn't make sense to me. So it would seem to me that we would want to move eventually, if we break this into two parts, I'm in full support of buttressing and updating the ordinance for conduct and behaviors. I think that's right and appropriate and should be done and should be on our discussion for strategic goals for next year. I have absolutely no problem with that. When you're passing this out to 150 different people, we got to be a little careful how much we're putting into this document. Because a lot of these people probably might not get all the way through it. And then when it comes to procedure, this shouldn't be a procedure document. This would be like, this is what's okay and this is what's not. Full stop.
Ethics.
The end. That's ethics.
I actually,
So I would be willing to entertain a strategy here tonight because I want to get it updated and on the record. But I also want us to be looking into this next year. So I think the Mayor Pro Tem's comments are all appropriate and right and directionally correct.
That's true.
I'd be curious what everybody would think of taking a look at the red letter update. And then obviously with George and Tony, if you see any issues with that, you would approve that. But then at some point, we would put in the record for next year that maybe we pull out Roman numeral 5 and then we would build some kind of lattice for ordinance off of that.
And you and
I would
Barbara
take
could
that-
be on that subcommittee.
My wife would kill me if I go on any more seminars. I can promise you it won't be me.
so Andrew, I think you're talking about, because we're looking at the current document, you're talking about Roman numeral number 3.
Okay,
Fine.
yeah, I'm looking at
Fine within my-
the last one on procedure. I think procedure should not be in.
You're on procedure.
Yeah.
But I'm
on your
willing
red.
to approve it
red
as
line.
is for now
Okay.
and then back it out once we
Yep.
have a framework in place and appropriate ordinance.
Yeah, I think when
Council, that's what I would like to do.
we do move forward with the ordinance, we will need to modify the resolution because pieces of it will.
It'll come back to
transfer over.
council.
Yeah.
Pieces.
And I
Yep.
want to strip out anything other than conduct and behavior for the person who's serving the city,
Correct.
expectations, and then everything else goes into the ordinance on management of it.
Correct.
I think that makes sense.
Yep, straightforward.
That would be my thing.
Yeah.
So I would be okay with that. I don't know what
Yep.
Joe, like the rest of council thinks.
Now, when you say you're okay with that, is that as amended where Tony and I were talking about
Yes.
those? Okay, as,
As amended. Great.
Any additional comments? Anybody from council chambers, public comment at this point? Going once, going twice? Okay, so with that, let us know the motion that's in the package you have in front of you. And we will look at the changes on that.
So the motion is to approve the resolution as amended. We got the changes from.
well,
Mayor Pro-
those technical ones.
Yep.
that we
Okay.
went through.
Yep, and I am fully supportive of that. If that's the motion, and I'm going to ask for that.
And we understand that
That
council
motion.
want us to bring it back at some point.
And we have that, you don't have to read all those changes. We have them in the record
Yeah.
right now. So the
Right.
motion in the package with those additional changes.
And like I said, I think it's a two-part process, to get this with the amendments, get the
And come back.
ordinance, and then back out all of that language that doesn't need to be in here any longer. That's what I'd like to do.
So if you could read that, Sandy, the motion. And just add
Good luck, Sandy.
It'll just be as amended.
as amended.
Read it as.
But
Yeah, because my.
read the motion that's in the package and then say as amended.
It is recommended that the Northville City Council adopt the standards of conduct and ethics as amended.
Mhm.
Yep. So I am putting that forward. So moved. Motion for myself. Don't do that very often, but I'm trying to be simple for everybody here. Do we have support for that motion?
Oh, I'll support it.
So we have a motion properly supported. Any other discussion up
Yeah.
here?
For the record, my vote will reflect it, but I am fully supportive of having an updated ethics, conduct, standard of conduct and ethics policy, but
Yes.
this one is, I'm uncomfortable with it. Also, I believe this, if it's important enough past tonight, it's important enough to be a priority to get this work done soon on a thoroughly vetted one. And so I'm a no, because those two things are not hand in hand. Doing something in January just doesn't work for me.
Okay. Let your vote reflect that. Good. So we have that motion properly supported. Any other discussion other than that? So on that, absolutely, I'd like a roll call vote on that. Clerk, please.
Krenz,
Yes.
Morosky Brown,
No,
Turnbull,
Yes.
Janetti.
Yes.
Good. Motion passes. Thank you. Good discussion. We will get to that next level. We have the strategic planning in January. I think we will have a modern era. Everybody's working this, every group that you're in, looking at what is ethics in the next level. So thank you very much.
yeah,
for
well,
this.
and I've already started working on something, so that. So,
Excellent.
as you all have distributed that. So the other is that as a fund for the clerk, but boards and commissions, some of them within their bylaws have reference to ethical, so those bylaws will have to be looked because this supersedes that. So those bylaws will have to be amended and there will have to be a reference to this resolution so that they don't go on their own guidance, they go on the city resolutions.
So in that subcommittee that Mr. Krenz is not going to be on, that you're going to be on, we will do great work on that.
Well, no, it's just pulling up every bylaw and see if it's in there and let the committee.
Well, where do we start trusting the staff? And where do we say the council's gonna get involved in every one of the commission?
I don't know,
committees?
Laura, I said that because I'm not sure they're aware that some bylaws and not all of the different boards and commission already have ethics rules within them. So this would be in conflict with that. They won't know which one to do. So it just means that's just a direction to those boards and commissions, which we can give. There are boards and commissions that they need to look at their bylaws.
Mhm.
To that, great comment.
That's it.
As we said earlier, we have 27 boards and commissions and 5 task forces. A lot of work. We can do all the things we're doing in Norfolk because we have 6.5% of all of our people on boards and commissions and task forces. And we have to support them and the staff on what they do. And great point. And we are here for
Just in agreement
visioning and
to
futuring.
see if like everyone's gonna have the same document on
Right.
all the boards and commissions, right, George? Is that what that's what we're powering towards.
Yeah, well, that's what
Mhm.
this is.
Right. Yes. So you will
Yeah.
work through it.
Like you said, it's been since 1989. I expect this to be
It's time for an
step
update.
process to clean up all the ethics
Yep.
language.
Let's make sure we have one. We've honed it a little bit. We got to hone it a lot. Thank you in advance, Sandy.
Long overdue.
Thank you in advance for the work and time and energy. Mr. Matt Samhat, I think we want to sell a fire engine to the township and get $1 in our coffers. Tell us about that. Thank you very much.
Interesting.
We have a big old ladder truck for 7 floors and we have nothing over 3 or 4 floors. So let's sell that and get it closer to us. Go right ahead.
So yes, tonight we're going to talk about selling the aerial truck to Norfolk Township. It's a 101 foot aerial platform. So it's a pretty large truck. Obviously the downtown streets don't really work well with that. So it does have limitations for our application. But Norfolk Township is interested in buying it. Which would allow us to still maintain use of the truck through our mutual aid agreement with them. We plan on amending our mutual aid agreement to specifying the aerial truck being available whenever we we need it, and they agree to that. So we're looking to sell the truck to them for $600,000, which is pretty nice considering that we purchased it for 800,000 in 2015.
That's
So
really good.
that's not a bad, not a bad deal for us. The truck is in great shape. It has low mileage. They're also getting a good deal. It still has a lot of life left on it. So it just kind of works out for everyone. It also has some other additional benefits. Currently, we don't have a place to store it in the city of Northville, so we do store it in the city of Plymouth, which according to the ISO grading, we technically do not get credit for it because it's further away. So we do get some points, but not as if we had it in our own city. But by having it Northville Township, from what I'm told is that is close enough in proximity to both the city of Northville and the city of Plymouth, that we would both get the credit as long as we do have our mutual aid agreement specifying that they would bring it to us. So we've been in talk with Northville Township. They're excited to get it. We're excited to get some money to help cover other costs. The costs of trucks keep going up. So most likely a good portion of that will kind of go back into buying our next truck, which is due to be ordered soon. In fact, I believe they're still planning on ordering an additional aerial truck because the lead time on those are 4 to 5 years. So
Wow.
The township does.
yes,
Wow.
correct. But
You know, that's why they need.
so there's a lot of benefits to selling it. Obviously, nobody likes getting rid of the trucks. Yeah, everybody likes the look of them and all of that and everything. But the benefits outweigh the negatives in this, and just financially, it's a hard argument against it. So my recommendation is for Northville City Council to authorize the sale of the 2014 Rosenbauer 101-foot Cobra and the equipment listed in the bill of sale and assignment to Northville Township.
Great. This is a win-win. It gets closer to us. I'm the chair of the fire department between Plymouth and Northville. This gives us credit on insurance and the points, as we said, it's closer to us. We can use it on the mutual aid. We are selling it to them almost as much as we paid for it back in 2015. And we have this relationship with the township, and we might have a couple dollars in the coffers. So it is a great deal you put together, and thank you for all the work with the township. It is a win-win for the city. It'll be closer than it ever. We don't have a place to put it here. That's why it's over in Plymouth. Plymouth and Northville are one fire department together. So that is over there. So great work. Thank you very much. Looking forward to it. Sandy is just smiling tremendously. I think she wants that money in that general fund. I know you're going to buy another fire truck someday, but we have some money to use on something else there. Okay, good. So thank you. That was my thank you at the end of the day. Good. Other comments?
No, thank you.
Great. Anybody want to talk about the fire truck out there?
I just had one question, just to clarify for everybody in the room. So by getting rid of this truck, the existing remaining fleet has absolutely no issue with the service calls that we have in the short term, on top of what the mayor had already said. Is that a fair statement? And then when we get the new truck, we'll be.
Correct. So we'll still have our full fleet of basically 3 engines per station. We won't have a aerial apparatus, so anything with a ladder attached to the truck at this point. We could always look at buying something when we replace one of our other engines. That's always a possibility, but something that would be a little bit smaller and more usable with our demographics. But we'll still have the use of it. So basically it's getting rid of the cost and the expense of maintaining it and the carrying costs of that, but still having that accessible to us through Northville.
And it's closer now than it was before.
And we do have.
Thank you, Chief. I just thought somebody might be listening to this and thought, are we gonna be down one?
Great point.
And I just want to make sure that that's not the
Yep,
case.
that's not the
Which is
case.
why this is great work.
It's-
And we
Win-win.
do have additional agencies surrounding us, Novi, who have an aerial truck. They're able to bring that whenever we need to request it. They'll
Right.
bring that. So
On
we
both
have multiple agencies that can bring aerial trucks if we need. them.
Rather than 3 or 4 minutes, an aerial truck can be downtown. So
Actually, one other point to make is that because they have a full-time firefighters, that will be in a station that is staffed full-time, where in Plymouth, it sits in a station that is essentially empty until someone goes there to get it.
Right.
So it really could even have a faster response if needed,
you're right.
Correct.
getting that truck to us from Northville Township.
And with it being a larger truck, then there's other training requirements that you have to have. So not everybody on our department is trained to drive and operate that truck. So we do have limitations in that sense.
Yeah, the township is paid on call. We're
The city-
paid full-time, pardon me.
Yeah.
We're paid on call. Unbelievably, we have some of the quickest response rates in the state at 5 to 6 minutes, because everybody comes in, we're 2 square miles here and everybody gets in there, but they're there. So that ladder truck within a minute will be coming to Northville. So where it was coming from Plymouth, they had to get to the station and get here. So it is a win-win. So
Yeah,
I
and
approve that.
that's not normally our first
Disclaimer.
response apparatus either. We normally bring an engine first to start the initial attack, fire
Great.
attack, and then that comes as a later response because it takes a little bit more time to get there, set up, all that. So
And soon we'll have drones, so we'll know what kind of equipment we need before the fire trucks even get out there.
Exactly.
We're on the wave of that too. Good. Any other comments from council?
No, this is great.
Anybody from chambers on fire trucks? We all like them, yeah, okay. So we have a motion in your package. I'm looking for that motion to go forward on the council chamber.
I move that Northville City Council authorize the sale of the 2014 Rosenbauer 101-foot Cobra to Northville Township for $600,000 and authorize the signing of the attached vehicle purchase agreement and bill of sale and assignment.
Great, so we have a motion. I'm looking for support of that motion.
I'll support it.
We have support. Any other discussion?
No, we didn't need to say who's authorized to sign it, did we?
no, it will be
Is it?
City
okay,
manager.
so it's-
Yep.
Okay. so
I don't have to
hang on,
sign on
I
that
just, It was just a clarifying question.
Good. So we have motion properly supported. No other discussion. We can do this. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All not, say nay. Sell that fire truck, get some money. Sandy, you're happy back there. Give me a smile. Okay, good. Got $600,000. Good. So with that, we are done with new things on the agenda. Mayor and council communications, just a couple things. Last weekend was outstanding. If you were here for the Skeletons Are Alive Festival, I've been here for 64 years and I've talked to a lot of people. We have never seen that many people at one time. We thought 2 weeks ago at the Victorian Festival, it was probably one of the top marks. Myself and Jim Long were talking about. It's unbelievable. There are probably 3,000 people downtown Norfolk Friday night. And more importantly, talking to the businesses, some of them had the best weekends they've ever had, Friday and Saturday. That's why we do it. We can't do it for ourselves. We tried to do it for different businesses. Some had great Fridays, but Saturday was even better on a couple of them because it was controllable. There were so many people Friday night. So I thank everybody. The weather had something to do with it. We didn't have to put the dome over that night, didn't we? So it was a beautiful night and the whole bit. So thank you all. I think I saw most of you down there. It was a fun night. Remember too, a lot of things going on. These task forces are happening. The cemetery restoration. If you haven't gone by the cemetery, we are redoing every stone. It is outstanding work. They brought the stones up. They've cleaned them up. We're going to do every stone in there. They started that. We had a cemetery tour Saturday and people were amazed. I mean,
Great.
it's outstanding. We're going to revise that for our bicentennial. So that'll be a stop, on the trolley going around. And the 2 meetings coming up, I was told to make sure everybody knows. The 28th of this month, there's a cemetery restoration committee meeting right here at 7. And on the 29th, the bicentennial. If you want to get involved, those are a lot of things going on and it'll take us the next 2 years to get it all done. So that's all I have. Thank you very much for all you do for the city. Any other council members?
I just wanted to say that it's in I said, there's a lot in our consent agenda, a
Yep.
lot of happenings, approvals
There's-
for happening events coming up in the next few weeks. But also in there were citizens that are appointed or reappointed to, one is Board
Right.
of Zoning Appeals. Craig Sarah is the new alternate. Andrew will temporarily be an alternate. We're still looking
Thank
for
you.
another Board of Zoning.
Tell your wife it'll be
alternate.
temporary.
Part of the reason I can't work on
Yes.
the ordinance.
So he's stepped in temporarily and we appreciate that. And we're still looking for one more BZA alternate. We do have somebody that might be interested.
We do.
but We don't have an
Yes, we
application
do.
yet. And then on the Downtown Development Authority, Jim Long and DJ Boyd were reappointed. We had 11 applicants for that.
We interviewed
for those
everyone.
two.
They're all good.
And many were non-vested, meaning they lived in the city, but they weren't a business owner, but wanted to be a part of that. So we're hoping those other 9 applicants do get involved with the committees, the DDA committees. There was really a lot of interest. And then also the Northville Senior Advisory Commission, Carol Doyle is the new city rep for that. So thank
Great.
you for their service.
And letters have gone out to all of them and they will be there part of the next meeting. Anybody else?
I think you touched on most of it. Just want to say congratulations to Craig. He's a great add to BZA, active in the community, good person. So
Mhm.
welcome aboard.
And thank you for taking that position as an alternate, just for a little bit of time. Your wife has already talked to me, duly
I haven't
noted.
told her yet.
I know,
He's not on.
I told her I'm
This
not
is
gonna
not-
give you anything else
Nobody.
after that task force.
Tell anybody.
Don't
So I'm-
tell,